Reading philosophy is difficult and can sometimes leave you feeling lost, but it doesn't have to. So if you're new to philosophical texts, or even if you've been reading them for a while, but you're not quite getting the concepts out of them, today I'm going to break down how I approach reading these difficult, challenging texts and also offer a few tips for getting more of the message out of what you're reading. Reading these difficult texts is a chance to have a dialogue with some of the greatest minds in history. It's a conversation between you and the author. The problem is, these conversations can be a bit one-sided if you have no clue what they're saying. So in order to be a better participant within this dialogue, we have to become an active and engaged reader. Mortimer Adler describes this perfectly in his book titled How to Read a Book, which I would highly recommend, where he analogizes reading difficult books to pitching and catching within baseball. In this analogy, the pitcher symbolizes the writer trying to convey a message. The catcher represents you, the reader, and in order to catch the ball, you must put forth effort. It can't be a passive process. So much of our learning occurs in two different domains, instruction and discovery. Instruction is a lot like we did in school, where we're remembering facts, we're reciting information, and just taking it in from often a teacher or some kind of auditory or read textbook, right? However, discovery works a little bit different. We aren't just reciting the information that we're reading, but we actually have to explore the text so that we are capable of explaining and understanding the message that the author presents. We have to wrestle with these ideas and go through a process of discovery. Enlightenment is achieved only when, in addition to knowing what an author says, you know what he means and why he says it. Philosophical texts, or really any challenging book for that matter, require a level of active reading in order to discover the message the author is trying to convey. So how do we actively read? Active reading requires you slow down, think hard, take notes, think hard again, and then explain what you've learned. Let's break this down further. First, you simply cannot read challenging books fast. Remember, you're reading for understanding and not completion. So speed is irrelevant in this matter if you have no clue what the hell it is that you read. Second, reading for knowledge is very different than reading for entertainment, and both have their value. When you're reading for knowledge, you need to have this active reading where you're engaged and focused as you're working your way through the text. You need to take the examples and concepts the author is speaking about and actually think about them. Take the time to think, conceptualize, and see how those examples play out in your mind. And know that if you're still confused and looking at your book like, I have no clue what's going on here, that is completely normal. I've been there, and I'm still there very often. Some philosophers, such as Hegel, are notorious for being difficult to read. And as Adler describes, some authors have loose control of their pitches and can throw a little bit wild. Now all that means is it's just going to take us more effort, more engaged reading to actually catch the ball or catch the idea that the writer is trying to present. And oftentimes that just means rereading, and reading it again. Another suggestion I would add is, if you're starting to feel lost, reading a couple sentences in, don't stress. A lot of times, later down that page, a couple more sentences down the way, you're going to actually piece together the ideas and understand the concept being presented. So just stay patient and again, persevere. Third, taking notes is crucial. I personally love writing in my books because I'm able to write down my thoughts as I'm reading, and I can also annotate key quotes or the arguments being made. But at a bare minimum, use tabs, note cards, or some sort of note-taking system. So as you're taking notes, you kind of want to take on the role of a detective where you're searching for these different clues and these different crumbs that the author is leaving behind within the text. And as you scan through it, you're going to be able to pick up on these different themes and ideas, and then by the time you're finishing up the book or a section or chapter, you can start to piece things together and understand the whole message or the idea, concept, whatever it is that the author is trying to convey. And also remember, this is your personal journey, so feel free to underline or jot down any interesting or provocative quotes that you read throughout the book. Another interesting point when it comes to taking notes is we are not copying down word for word what is written in the text. You need to take the concept, the underlined portion, whatever it is that stood out to you, and paraphrase and explain that in your note, because that will actually include the idea of discovery rather than just reciting a fact or reciting word for word what the author said. And lastly, once you've got all your notes, you want to store and organize them in a specific place. I personally use Notion, but you could use Evernote, Obsidian, all kinds of different places you could physically store them. Whatever works for you, stick to that. That way we can come back to them later, review them, remember, connect ideas, and start to conceptualize our thoughts and ideas. Although most of your discovery and active reading should be done unaided, I am by no means saying that you should be on this journey alone. I do think that knowledge is best obtained when we can explain and engage with these ideas with others. But if you're like me, you're not an academic student, or you're not on campus or have access to a well-read mentor, then fortunately, you do have the best tool at your disposal, and it's free, and it's the internet. The first resource I would recommend would be Dr. Gregory Sadler's YouTube channel. He is a professor and a PhD in philosophy and just offers an immense amount of information on his YouTube channel. There are thousands of videos going over core concepts for all of the major popular philosophical works. He does Ask Me Anythings each month. He is a phenomenal resource for engaging with these ideas and just getting a little bit of assistance and explanation behind what they mean if you're struggling. Another great resource is to look for books written about a certain philosopher's ideas or a collection of philosophers that existed around a certain time period. For example, German idealism or phenomenology, existentialism, whatever it is. There's certainly plenty of books kind of talking about these ideas in more of a collective sense. But remember, these secondary texts do not replace the primary text. You still need to read the actual works themselves. You need to engage with them, take notes, and at least attempt as best you can to understand the primary text. But these secondary resources, these YouTube videos, whatever it is, are great for filling in the gaps and helping you if you are feeling stuck. To wrap things up, you need to be proud of yourself for reading these difficult books. There's a reason why most of society either doesn't read them, gives up on them, avoids them, whatever it is. It's because these ideas are difficult. They're confusing, they're abstract. So cut yourself some slack and realize you should be proud of yourself for going through with it, because although it is a struggle, I think reading these classical texts, these philosophical texts, are well worth the difficulties that we go through. And if you're still confused, again, do not stress. You have all this time to go back, reread. That's the whole point of having the book, right? Is you can reread your book with your notes, with your ideas written into it, and come back and again build upon that down the line. Your ideas about what message was being conveyed may change down the road. So do not stress. Stay patient with reading these difficult books. Hopefully these tips assist you on your journey of discovery, and if you have any advice of your own to add, please do comment down below and share it with others. Subscribe for more content, like the video if it helped you, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.